Alabama doubters are doing a lot of chirping and a lot of noise I've been hearing about Alabama. All has been about their quarterback situation. JT, man, Alabama is going to fall off this year. They ain't going to win 10 games because they don't got Bryce Young. You know Bryce Young carried Alabama last year. Blah, 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 blah. I do not care. I'm trying to tell you guys, you keep on sleeping on Nick Saban all you want to and watch him surprise you once again and make you look dumb when the season rolls around. I know that things are kind of looking a little bit concerning when it comes to Alabama's quarterback room. But you got to remember, Alabama went to the college football playoffs with Blake Sims as their QB. And not too many people are all that high on Blake Sims neither. And you look at who they have in their quarterback room right now. You got Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, and Notre Dame transfer Tyler Buchner. I don't think the problem with Alabama's quarterback room is them having a lack of talent. I think the problem is you don't know who the hell should be your starter week one. Now, you look at how Jalen Milroe played in the spring game. I thought that he was the best quarterback in the spring for the Crimson Tide. Now, last year, he appeared in a couple of games. I think he looked pretty sharp against Texas A&M, although they barely won that game. He had 1 interception, he had 3 touchdowns, and this dude is a fantastic athlete. And out of all the quarterbacks currently on Alabama's roster, Jalen Milroe has the highest upside. His upside is Lamar Jackson. And I know that's a lofty comparison to make, but did you watch the spring game when he had that 1 touchdown run on that zone read? This dude is one of the most athletically gifted QBs in all of college football. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go as far to say he's the most athletic quarterback in college football right now. If he can take some steps in improvement as a passer, he's going to be in the Heisman conversation. And against Arkansas, he was rocky in that game, but he still was able to take over that game because of his athleticism. He has a strong arm. He's a elite athlete. You only have questions about his accuracy. But outside of that, I think that Jalen Milroe is probably the best quarterback that Alabama has on their roster right now. Now, Ty Simpson, we haven't really seen him in live action in a real game situation like how Jalen Milroe was last year when he was thrown out there in replace of Bryce Young when he went down. But in the spring game, he made a couple of decent plays, but I still don't feel like he was better than Jalen Milroe. He does have a pretty good arm. He has pretty good mobility. He's able to get outside the pocket, improvise, extend plays. He's also a better athlete than what you may think. He made one guy break his ankles damn near in the spring game during that 2-minute drill. He was rolling out. He did a little hezzy, then a little juke, and I was like, ooh, okay, Ty Simpson. I see you. I see you, Ty Simpson. And Ty Simpson was a 5-star recruit coming out of his recruiting class. He was one of the best quarterbacks in that recruiting cycle that he came in. So the talent is there at quarterback for Alabama. Now, of course, Ty Simpson has some things that he needs to work on. I do think he has great deep ball accuracy, but I think that he needs to improve his pocket presence. I think that Jalen Milroe is a little bit better in the pocket compared to Ty Simpson. When Ty Simpson senses just a little bit of pressure, instead of stepping up, he just tends to roll out. And I think for Alabama, I think the better option between the two, Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe, is Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe gives Alabama the best chance to win. Now, of course, I got to touch on Tyler Buchner, but I'm just keeping it stacked. I don't think Tyler Buchner is that good. Now, I get why Alabama took him in as a transfer. Tommy Rees, who is the OC for Notre Dame, is there now, and Tyler Buchner has a pretty good amount of familiarity with Tommy Rees' system, his philosophy, and what he wants to do, but I don't think Tyler Buchner is a good QB. At least a Power 5 starting caliber QB at that. So you look at Jalen Milroe, I think that Jalen Milroe, if he ends up becoming the starting quarterback for Alabama, I think they're going to be in pretty good hands. He may not be the most polished passer, and he may not be able to lead you to a national championship, but I at least feel like you can win the SEC West with Jalen Milroe as QB, even if he isn't lighting the world on fire as a passer. I don't think he's god awful as a thrower. And with his athleticism, that gives you a clutch that you can lean on. And if the passing game isn't working, you can rely on the run game. Same thing that you did with Blake Sims years ago, you can do with Jalen Milroe. And Jalen Milroe is a better athlete than what Blake Sims was. And this dude has a way better arm than what Blake Sims does. And you have a pretty good offensive line. J.C. Latham is expected to be a high draft pick in next year's draft. This should be one of the better offensive lines that Alabama has had in the last couple of years. The offensive line play has been pretty down. So for Jalen Milroe, if he gets to start at QB, I think they could be really good this year and once again make it back to the college football playoffs. But if they go with Ty Simpson, I don't think they could go wrong with that neither. And you got to remember, even if one of these guys ends up getting the start, there's not a guarantee that whoever gets named the starting quarterback week 1 is going to be the guy who finishes out the season as the starter. You remember that game against USC when I think it was, his name was Blake Barnett started, and then he ended up getting benched in favor of Jalen Hurts, and ever since then, for the remainder of the season, it was the Jalen Hurts show. I think you could kind of see a similar situation play out if one of these guys doesn't work out. And you're going to see it really early in that Texas game. They're going to be playing Texas at home. That's going to be your first indicator of whoever ends up being the quarterback for Alabama, who's going to remain the starter for the remainder of the season. I'm not concerned about Alabama's quarterback issues right now. They're not the only school in college football that's having question marks with who their starting QB is going to be. Ohio State is having a quarterback battle, and plenty of other teams are having quarterback battles. Auburn doesn't know who their quarterback is going to be this year. Florida, they're leaning towards Graham Mertz, but they still having some questions at who's going to be their quarterback this year. So there's a bunch of other schools who are having concerns at QB. And for Alabama, you got Nick Saban. I trust Nick Saban's judgment. You can call it bias all you want to. Nick Saban has a proven track record. This guy knows what he's doing. And I don't think the problem with Alabama is that they lack talent at QB. The problem with Alabama is just that they're trying to find out which quarterback is going to get hot at the right time. And I believe that Jalen Milroe is going to be the guy who ends up winning out this quarterback battle and ends up being the starting QB for Alabama going into week 1. Alabama's team is so good this year that I don't think they need heroic efforts or Bryce Young efforts like what they needed last year. There's a reason why Alabama and Nick Saban made so many changes on the coaching staff. Tommy Rees is a pretty good offensive coordinator. He's not one of the best offensive coordinators in the game, but he is pretty well respected. So you look at Tommy Rees and the job that he's going to be tasked with being able to get these quarterbacks ready for the opening game of the regular season. I trust Tommy Rees and I trust Nick Saban. I don't think that Alabama is lacking at quarterback this year. These quarterbacks are more than capable. Hell, maybe Tyler Buchner, if he gets to start, maybe he ends up surprising us. He wasn't able to play in the spring game, so he's going to have to get caught up to snow pretty fast. But if he does, then I think that shows you how good he is if he ends up being named the starter. Or maybe it shows you that Alabama was desperate. But I don't think them getting Tyler Buchner was a sign of desperation. I think it was just a sign of insurance. Because maybe they're still trying to watch things play out. But nobody transferred out yet. So if nobody transferred out, I think that tells you how the rest of these quarterbacks feel about this QB battle. They still feel like they have a chance to win. And I feel like Jalen Milroe is probably going to end up winning out this job. But I'm not concerned about Alabama's quarterback room. And for those of you guys who are doubting Alabama because you don't know how good the quarterback position is going to be, they have won with a little bit worse. I'm not saying that Blake Sims was terrible, but compared to some of the other QBs that Alabama has had coming to that program before him and after him, there's been much better. And I think that Alabama can build the offense around Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe, with his skill set and his athleticism, he has the highest ceiling and the highest potential out of all the quarterbacks in Alabama's locker room right now. And if he isn't that polished as a passer, you can win with his athleticism.